Hello everybody, welcome to the MaffmanJones movie show. It's been a couple weeks, but I'm back. We have a lot of trailers to talk about this week, and a couple of things that literally a news story came out last night in concern to Jurassic World 3 in the wake of the new short film Battle of Big Rock, which I actually did watch and I did enjoy it too. It's like 8 minutes, it's just a little isolated story about a family camping at a time when it's globally known that dinosaurs are roaming the earth uncaged. People don't give a shit, I guess. But I guess it gives a little taste of what the third movie is going to be like. Well, let's get down the brass tacks first with the trailer for Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers, starring Adam Sandler, Kevin Garnett, The Weeknd, Idina Menzel, or Adela Hazim if you're John Travolta, Mike Francesca. The cast is bonkers, and I'm so excited for this movie. It comes out in December. It's Adam Sandler in a serious role. People keep mentioning Oscars and Adam Sandler in the same sentence, but I don't know if you could do that yet based on just seeing the trailer, but people have seen the movie at festivals, and they're saying that he's really good in it, so we'll have to see. If you saw A Good Time starring Robert Pattinson, the previous Safdie brothers movie, you're not really surprised at the tone of this trailer, but I think it's really cool that I think maybe this movie can actually break through to the mainstream because of Adam Sandler and because of the cast that they have here. And because the Safdie brothers, they're not a household name in the casual audiences. Nobody knows who they are. People who follow the industry, follow everything, obviously like we know about them and we respect them and we look forward to their films, but they're not those kind of, they're not Christopher Nolan or like even though he's not that big either though, yet in terms of mainstream appeal, but Denis Villeneuve, they're not there yet. But if this movie is as good as people say it is and it breaks through, they're gonna be making movies for a long time, without any pressure. The pressure of them being good, but I mean pressure is in having to look for jobs. They'll be fine. But this trailer was really good. I liked how dark in tone it was. I liked seeing that side of Adam Sandler, and I liked how the film is presenting itself. We don't really get much of the story. We see just random images solicited, like that diamond Furby. It's the diamond Furby. Kevin Garnett just hanging out with Lakeith Stanfield. And I love Lakeith Stanfield, so I took a second just to appreciate that he's in this movie, because I feel like any movie that he's in elevates the movie. Just from having him in the cast itself. And that's it. I'm just really excited to see this movie. It comes out around the same time as Star Wars. And this, again, as I mentioned before, I'm just excited to see how this movie does financially, critically, if it's treated as such, and if we actually do get a chance of seeing Adam Sandler nominated for a lead acting role. Can you imagine? That would be crazy. He's done great performances before. Punch Drunk Love, Reign Over Me. His movies, Spanglish, The Wedding Singer, he's done great things before. Next, we have the trailer for El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie. Now, the last two trailers were really just announcement moments for people out there who don't know about this existing, to tell them, well, this is coming, so be prepared for it. If you have Netflix, get excited for it. And it's going to be out in theaters for the first weekend, so if you want to go out there and see this in a theater, you'll have the opportunity to do so. I really liked... I mean, I'm not going to talk about the first two trailers with Skinny Pete and Aaron Paul in the car that he drove off in at the end of Breaking Bad, because they're just telling you this movie exists. But I like those because you're not getting any sense of the story, and you have no idea what's going on, but you're in if you watch Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad is one of the best shows ever made, period. It was consistent, it was funny, it was dramatic, it had tension for days, and it was incredible. And this new trailer does exactly the same thing. It sets a tone, a sense of mood. It's got that really melancholy music with Aaron Paul out and about doing things. You get one sense of something at the end of the trailer when you hear "Are you ready?" And it was mentioned in a couple other places, but I did think of the idea: is that Bryan Cranston? Is that Walter White? And it could be. And my idea was, if they're gonna have Walter White in this movie, because he's dead. He's not alive. He had bullet wounds and he bled out. He's dead. He clearly died in that shot in Breaking Bad. People who are out there speculating that he's alive, it's Vince Gilligan is smarter than that. He would he would not just bring him. Another executive, another showrunner would be like, let's bring him back because people like him so much. But he's dead. This is about Aaron Paul, Jesse Pinkman's run from the law after the events of the finale of Breaking Bad and everything that came before that. You get senses like you do see the picture of his girlfriend who got killed by Todd and Little Brock. You see Skinny Pete and Badge and all that. Like little thing, just glimpses of things that we liked from the show. And yeah, again, you get a lot of Aaron Paul just moping around, looking very scared, looking very nervous, trepidatious of what's going on or whatever's going on in the situation that he's in this movie. And yeah, I do think he's going to have visions of Heisenberg, Walter White, whatever. But if you saw Daredevil season 3, I think they did really well in Daredevil season 3. It's one of my favorite seasons of television, maybe ever. I love it that much. When Matthew Murdock, he's the Daredevil, he's a superhero. His father died. He was murdered. Usually the tragedy of most superheroes out there, but he died when he was younger. So in this third season, he has visions and moments, hearing and reflecting with his father, and his father will be in the background of a scene, but depth of field will make him blurred out. So he's not looking at his father, but he'll be behind him, but he'll be blurred out. So you get the sense that, yes, visually you see, okay, so he's not actually there. He's just hearing him and seeing him in his mind. So I think they're going to do something similar here where Aaron Paul will be around and like maybe he needs guidance, maybe he needs help, and you'll see hauntings and visions of Walter White giving him little one-liners or little sayings like, Jesse, you must move. Or maybe he'll be an antagonist. Maybe he'll be receiving bad thoughts from Walter White given the events of the end of the show. But there was a little bit of a redemption moment at the end of the show, so maybe it won't be so negative in terms of his mental state in regards to Walter White. But yeah, I'm excited for this. People are a little nervous that this might not be that good because they're not showing anything, but I think it's great they're not showing anything. And Vince Gilligan has always been the kind of showrunner and director to not really give away events of his show or his projects. So I think it's just that's just how it was naturally going to be. And I'm glad we don't know really much at all.
Now let's get into
going
the
news,
because then we'll have
fresh
eyes for everything.
Because it's news, it's not a trailer. It's actually news that came out in the trade and deadline reporting. You know, texts, headlines, newspapers, articles, and all that jazz. Matthew Reeves is directing a new Batman movie. Yes, Batman's coming back, but you're not surprised by that part. But we had Robert Pattinson is playing Batman, Bruce Wayne. We've known that for a little while now, but now we're starting to see the surrounding cast come out. So apparently the plot revolves around a mystery where the world's greatest detective has to solve a mystery, which is cool. I like that. We're going to have to do something different since Batman's been reincarnated multiple times. Jeffrey Wright is playing Commissioner Gordon. Jeffrey Wright has been in so many movies. Most recently, he's been in one of the best shows out there on HBO, Westworld. And I think this is a great choice. I love this choice. And Jonah Hill, who is negotiating for $10 million to play one of two villains, apparently, either the Riddler or the Penguin. And Jonah Hill is a comedic actor, but he's been nominated for Oscars twice now, with Wolf of Wall Street and Moneyball, if I'm correct here. But I sense that if he's playing either character, he's going to bring not some jokes, but just, levity to situations. I'd rather see Jonah Hill play the Riddler. He has the ability to touch on that playfulness of the character, and also when he has to get serious, he can get really serious and really intimidating. But the Riddler is more of a playful character, and the way I see it, he does bring the consequences, and he does bring the fear, but in a more lighthearted way. And I don't know if he's going to be the kind of Riddler we've seen in the Arkham games or the 60s movie and the 60s Adam West show, or if we're going to get something that's completely different from like a Jim Carrey Batman Forever situation where he's playing it very serious and occasionally brings a little haha into it. Riddle me this, Batman. As far as these two actors are concerned, wonderful casting. And literally last night before, I was going to record this video last night, I never got the chance to because I was editing, but I'm glad I didn't, because I woke up and found out that in Jurassic World 3, it was announced at a screening of Battle at Big Rock, which was mentioned before in the show, early on. The OG trio of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, Alan, Ellie, and Malcolm, they're all returning for Jurassic World 3. Now, Malcolm was in Fallen Kingdom, but for literally 17 seconds. With maybe a page, not even a page of dialogue in the script. And they literally use him in the trailers as marketing and be like, look who's in this movie, when he's barely in the movie at all. And I wasn't a fan of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I enjoy the original Jurassic World directed by Colin Trevorrow because it does play on nostalgia, and it's very one note. It doesn't really do anything interesting, but I think you can't get any better than the original Jurassic Park. So if you're going to keep making these movies, just make them fun. And that movie was fun and had great music from Michael Giacchino, and I understand why it made so much money. The second one, however, directed by J.A. Boyona, who I love as a director, but I think the script was very, very bad. And there's so much wrong with that movie, and if you watch my review, I go into that. But it was just very disheveled and sloppy, and there was, aside from maybe one or two scenes that I did enjoy in the film, and I did enjoy the whole escape from Isla Nublar, the island, in the beginning of the movie. I didn't enjoy what came after that. But the idea of dinosaurs out and about in the world, Planet of the Apes style, where we have them just making territory of their own through the world that's already inhabited by billions of human beings. I wonder how they're going to play with that. There's so much you could do with that, and I bet they're going to go for the easiest route, because just knowing how the trajectory of this franchise has been going, it's the third movie now. I mean, they're not going to take any huge risks. They're going to play on nostalgia, obviously, having cast the OG characters, the OG actors, and I'm sure they would bring John Hammond back if he was around, because I'm pretty sure he passed away in the movies because he passed away in real life, Richard Attenborough. But if he was around, they would have probably brought him back too. You might as well bring the Kirbys back at this point. William H. Macy and Tia Leona and their son. Bring them back too. Bring back Julianne Moore. Bring back all these characters. Because obviously they're all going to probably be wondering what happened. Because they've all been through the shit. So obviously you're not just going to sit idle and let things happen. You think they'd be out there trying to figure out what's going on and try to alleviate the situation. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for this story to tell something interesting. I just don't think they're going to. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I like Colin Trevorrow, despite his shortcomings as a director and as a producer. Remember Book of Henry? I actually kind of enjoyed it for how silly it was. But he was supposed to direct episode 9 before they kicked him off in Lucasfilm and gave it back to J.J. Abrams, Star Wars. I'm excited, but we'll have to see. Color me cautiously optimistic for this one. And hopefully not just trying to pull on heartstrings and nostalgia strings like, ooh, look, they're back. Hopefully they actually play a substantial role in this that makes sense and brings the gravitas. They're moving in herds. Now, for the last part of today's show, I'm going to be reviewing quickly some movies I've seen over the past couple weeks. I did see Hustlers, starring J-Lo, Cardi B, that's my impression of Cardi B, Constance Wu, Keke Palmer, Lily Reinhart from Riverdale, a couple other people. I actually really like this one a lot. I don't know if I would run and rush to watch this again. I wouldn't buy it or anything. But I think it's a pretty solid movie. It's well directed. The cinematography is pretty dope. The music in this movie completely, accurately, beautifully represents the late 2000s, especially 2007. There's an Usher song in this movie that is just, I forgot it exists, but I used to not like this particular song, but hearing it in this movie in the context of said film made me appreciate it more. It's about these strip club dancers that hustled Wall Street men out of millions of dollars, and they made a living off of it, and they did illegal activity, they committed crimes, and obviously there's consequences there. But it's not that consequential the way the movie turns out, but it's a fun time. If you were curious to see it, I would say go check it out before it leaves theaters. Otherwise, it's a really worthwhile rental. I don't think there's been conversations about J-Lo being Oscar nominated for this movie. I don't think she's that good. She plays the character very well. It's one of the best performances she's given in a long time, but I don't think it's worth a nomination. When people start talking about nomination for Oscars when we get towards the fall season, just because like if they see one good role, they're like, ooh, nominate. Like they're like when you see like a movie with like pop culture references, like, ooh, I get it. But yeah, really good movie, really good performance by her and Constance Wu, who anchors the film, but it's just good. Next is Ad Astra, starring Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones, directed by James Gray, who directed Lost City of Z, which is a great movie if you haven't seen that, starring Charlie Hunnam, Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson, coincidentally, as we talked about him earlier today, another movie he's in. And I really like this one a lot. It's very cerebral, and I can see I can see both sides here, how people could find it monotonous and boring, but I could also see people who find this movie to be like an instant classic masterpiece. That's super hyperbolic, but I understand where people are coming from walking out of the movie if they were that excited to see it, feeling that way. I fall more towards the positive side, but I wouldn't exactly call this like a modern instant classic movie. I think it needs time to marinate, like any movie does, but I love Brad Pitt in this role. His performance is beautiful. It's nuanced. He says a lot without saying a lot, if you know what I mean. Ad Astra's portrayal of a near-future space travel is also very it feels strangely accurate to where we're going to be in like maybe 20, 30, 50 years from now. Just like the idea of having commercial flights going from Earth, this isn't a spoiler, this is just part of the movie, going from Earth to the moon or other planets, vice versa, where you do have your private flights, your commercial flights, you have your flight attendants who are offering services to you while you're on the flight. You get to the space base, and while you're there, it feels like an airport. You have your Dunkin' Donuts and your Subways, and so you could get your coffee and get your food when you're traveling to work on the moon. Like, little things like that, like details like that seem like they're going to actually happen in real life. And I appreciate how grounded these little details felt, and they made the world feel that much more inhabited. The space pirates, and just that feeling of isolation, I really enjoyed that. And just the trajectory of Brad Pitt's journey trying to find his father, I was a big fan of all that. I do appreciate the ending for what it's worth too, and what it does for this story and the themes and the character of Brad Pitt. But I can also see where people can feel betrayed by the movie in the end there. But I think it does have the emotional chops, and it does work there. I'm going to give it a low recommendation. I think it's really worth seeing on the biggest screen possible because of the nature of it being a trek through space. But I really liked it. It may sneak its way into a top 10. I'm thinking it's going to grow on me, so we'll see. We also have Rambo Last Blood. I haven't seen the first couple Rambos in a long time. I watched them once on like AMC or some channel when I was a kid. I really liked the fourth Rambo, where he just goes crazy, and he goes crazy here too, but not until the last act of the movie. It's a very pedestrian, by-the-numbers story for the most part, and then the last 25 minutes or so are just mayhem. And it's what you came to see. I think it's worth getting through the movie for those last 20 minutes or so to see Rambo really unleash himself. It's a little gratuitous, but it's the fun kind of gratuitous. I had a good time with it, honestly, and that's really all I have to say about it. So I'm not going to remember it. There are worse ways to end the Rambo character, even though they should have probably ended it logically a couple movies ago, but I get it. I do see, though, a problem transpiring possibly when it comes to the subject matter of Rambo Last Blood because of details in the story. I'm not going to get into it, but there are some visual cues. The movie takes place on the border of Mexico. John Rambo has a daughter in this movie who gets kidnapped by sex traffickers in Mexico, and they portray Mexico in a very negative light in the way this movie's portrayed, and it's for the story. I didn't mind it, but in the back of my mind watching the movie the entire time, I'm realizing that there are people who are going to take this movie the wrong way and use Rambo as like a, as a white savior of sorts. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I don't want to make it a thing, but I was just cognizant of that possibility in my head the entire time, and I could see where people could misinterpret what the story is doing here and take it for propaganda. That's just me. But that's always been Rambo, I guess, with the times, and it makes sense. It's just something that I noticed and I thought I should put out there. And lastly, I watched Between Two Ferns, the movie, starring Zach Galifianakis. And not really much to say about this one. It's if you've seen Between Two Ferns, it's Zach Galifianakis with two ferns, and he usually interviews celebrities. But the whole shtick of it, though, is that Zach Galifianakis, when he interviews said celebrities, asks the most offensive, ridiculous questions to get a rise out of these people. But his interviews with people over the years on Funny or Die have been hilarious, and that's the best part of the movie, are the interviews with these celebrities. I laughed the most with the Matthew McConaughey one. There's one involving Paul Rudd. There's one involving Haley Steinfeld. There's a lot of people.
I read online that you're very private and decline to answer questions that make you feel uncomfortable. Is that true? And how old were you when you got your first period?
The whole story is that Zach Galifianakis in this movie, it's like a mockumentary. He wants to be a late-night talk show host. But in order to do that, he has to satisfy the coke-riddled Will Ferrell, who is the leader and the boss of Funny or Die. He really is the creator of Funny or Die. And he goes across the country seeking out celebrities to interview them, and he has to do 10 of them so that he can get the gig. And I didn't care for the in-betweens with these characters that are played by actors in real life, but they're not playing themselves. They're playing actual crew members on this Between Two Ferns show. And that little journey, I didn't care for it. There's something with Peter Dinklage that I thought was really, I was passively watching this. It didn't really do anything for me. I was just really looking forward to watching the interview parts of the movie. Those segments actually work really well. And I was kind of like drifting off a lot when it wasn't during those segments. It's also pretty forgettable. And I would only recommend this if you've watched Between Two Ferns before and you want to see new interviews. And that's it for today. Thank you for sticking around for this entire video. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the MaffmanJones movie show, click that like button, ring that bell so you'll always be notified of a new video. Comment down below about any of the news stories down below. What do you think of the Uncut Gems trailer, or El Camino, or Jurassic World 3 news, the casting news, or the Batman casting news, or any of the movies I reviewed also. What would you think of those movies if you want? Just whatever you're interested in talking about, comment down below, and let's have a discussion. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys soon. I'm John Maffio, and my fantasy football team still sucks. Not just one. They all of them suck. I have no wins in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, not one win yet. And I was in the championship last year in one league, and now I'm in rock bottom. So nowhere to go but up. But right now, the only thing keeping me happy is Daniel Jones on the Giants, and hoping it's not a 1 week fluke and that he's actually a really well-rounded quarterback. We'll have to see against the Redskins coming up. Exciting times for the Giants right now, but fantasy football team-wise, I really want to quit fantasy football. But I'll be back. I've been playing for 10 years. But that's not going to stop me. But right now, it feels like hell. All right, I'm done rambling. See y'all next time.